If he survived the night, Denny vowed he would destroy the thing upon the wall, or, better than losing it entirely, he would give it to his father, and he in turn would present it to some museum in Denny's name. Denny for a moment was able to forget the persistent rapping which had now returned to the window, for in his mind he saw a glass case with the moth in it, and a little card below upon which was printed, "Unique specimen, Lepidoptera, gift of Mr. Denny Longwood, aged 12. All through the night, first at the window, then at the door, the beating of the wings continued, relieved only by the occasional plop of the soft, heavy body. Though having dozed for only an hour or two at the bright light of day, Denny felt his decision of the night before indefensible. The moth smelled, that was undeniable. The matter of the crab and mouth-like markings seeming to expand and become more intense in their color could probably be explained by somebody who knew about such things. As for the beating against the window and the door, it was probably, as he had first surmised, a bat. If need be, 2 bats. The moth on the wall was dead. Was his. He had hatched it, and he knew the limitations of a moth, dead or alive. He looked at it. The stain had spread so that now its diameter was as great as the spread of the wings. It was no longer exactly a stain either. It looked as if a spoonful of dirty cereal had adhered to the wall. It was just about the color of mush. It will stop in time, like the others, just as soon as the abdomen dries up, thought Danny. At breakfast, his father remarked that the smell as yet hadn't left the house, that it was in fact stronger, if anything. Denny admitted it might take a day or 2 more before it was completely gone. Before the meal was over, his father told Denny that he was looking so badly that he had better see Dr. Phipps. "How much do you weigh?" he asked. Denny didn't know. "You look," his father said, "all dried up, like one of those pupae you had upstairs." The moon shone bright again that night. In spite of his logic of the morning, Denny felt sure that the movement of the white and vermilion crabs up to the white teeth and vermilion lips was more than just hallucination, and the beating of wings started at the window again, then at the door, then back at the window, then, in a way, worse than that, a plop now and then of the body against the barrier. Though he tried to rise and look out when it was at the window, his limbs would not obey him. Hopelessly, his eyes turned to the wall again. The crab-like spots clicked their tiny claws together each time the wings struck against the window pane, and each time the plump, squashy body went plop, the teeth snapped together between the thin-lipped mouths. All at once the stench within the room became nauseating. There was nothing for Denny to do but make for the door, while whatever it was still pounded at the window. As much as he feared and hated him, his father's cynical disbelief was to be preferred to this terror. Denny refrained from switching on the light for fear that it would reveal his movements to the thing outside. Halfway across the room and shivering, he involuntarily turned his head, and for a moment his feverish eyes saw what was outside before it disappeared. Denny rushed to the door and unlocked it, but as he twisted the knob, something beat against the other side of the door, pushing it open before Denny could shut the door against it. When luncheon was over, Ethel was sent upstairs to see what had happened. She was so hysterical when she came down that Denny's father went to see for himself. Denny lay in his pajamas on the floor just inside the door. The skin of his lonely and somewhat arrogant face was marred by the marks of something pincer-like, and from his nose, eyes, ears, and mouth a network of viscid filaments stretched across his face and to the floor as though something had tried to bind his head up in them. His father had some trouble in lifting him up because the threads adhered stubbornly to the nap of the blue carpet. The body was feather-light in his father's arms. The thought that the body had certainly been underweight passed insanely through his father's mind. As he carried his son out, his eyes fell upon a spot on the wall at the foot of the bed. The pattern of a willow tree was completely obliterated by a creeping growth that looked like fungus. Still carrying his son, the man crossed over to it. A pin protruded from its center, and from this spot Mr. Longwood could tell that the terrible smell came. And that is the end.